Well, nice early start for this morning from Bajo, Komodo. We're going to head past or through the Komodo National Park and possibly stop on one of the northwestern islands of the Komodo National Park, and possibly keep going depending on what the wind does for us. It's very light at the moment and I expect that pretty much all day. See how we go. Time to get underway. It's been nice here, it's been really pleasant. Yeah. And I believe the boat in front of us, a French curse, is headed the same way, so we may see him some more. French curve come to say g'day. I think we're going to talk about gilly banter, I think. This is Beneteau 47 first, 47 something 7. It's basically the same yacht but a faster version of ours. Good morning, people. I think you're 100% right about gilly banter. Okay. Yep. So I found the National Park, information PDF. Yeah. And it doesn't show gilly banter as part of the National Park. So it looks like it's outside the National Park. So yeah, we're going to go and have a look at gilly banter as well.
Are you going to go to the north side?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. So we may see you up there.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, you can check it out before we get there, eh?
Yeah.
Don't often get that close, and I would be nervous with most people, but these guys have done a lot of miles, and he's clearly in control of his boat, so it doesn't make me nervous having him that close. So the short of that, if you didn't hear it, was that we're pretty sure that gilly banter at the northwest end of Komodo is not actually part of the national park, which means we'll be able to anchor up there because anchoring is banned within the national park now, and our understanding is there's not a lot of moorings available. So so anchoring, if you don't get a mooring, you're out of luck really. And there's a lot of boats here operating, so you really need to make sure that wherever you go, you know that what you're going to get somewhere to stop, and that you won't have to keep bouncing from anchorage to anchorage to anchorage. But anyway, looks like gilly banter has the ability to anchor, and you're allowed to anchor. So we're going to go check it out. After nearly 3 hours of motoring, we finally found some wind. About 12 knots on I'd say a reach to a broad reach, more like a broad reach, off the port side. And we've still got French curve in sight. I think he's doing far better than us. I think he's got about half a knot on me, maybe a little bit more. Anyway, who cares? I'm not competitive. Having a beautiful sail now though. This is Komodo Island on our port side. So the national park is sort of based around Komodo Island. Bajo way off in the distance there that we left this morning. And we're getting a little bit of wind down the passage here between Flores Island and Komodo. Our destination is past that little small island you can see in the middle of the GoPro there. I'm sure on the GoPro footage you probably can't see our destination. But we're headed there for the night. It's not supposed to be a fantastic anchorage. It's supposed to be very deep. Right up to basically to the reef, but there are a couple of sand shelves that we might be able to aim for if it's not too busy. We picked up a nice breeze here on the back of the thunderstorm behind me. Looks like we're just going to scrape the edge of it as it passes behind us, but it's produced a bit of wind. We're getting 15 knots right on the beam, and that's allowing me to produce 7 knots through the water. So engine off and having a fat sail. I love this. I'm going to skip past Gilly Batam. I'm pretty sure it's Gilly Batam, which is to the northwest of Komodo, and head towards Wira Bay, which would be the next one possible for us. Although again, it's not a great anchorage. Could be it, and it's the island of Sumbawa, which is the island, the large island to the east of Lombok. So we are getting there. there is the chance that we'll run all night if we don't get to Weira Bay in time, or I find that it's unsuitable. We'll turn around and head back out again. But at this rate, we're doing 6.5, 7 knots. I think there's a good chance we'll make it with just enough daylight to get in and drop the peak. Or maybe not. We'll see how we go. We've been having a really great sail. Although we're making 7 over the ground, I don't think we're actually making 7 knots. I think we've got a bit of tide giving us a push here. Hopefully it's going to push us all the way through that narrow strait between Pulau Sumbawa and Sangiang. Hopefully it'll give us a push. But Sangiang is one of the most stunning islands I've seen in Indonesia. This island here is just amazing. It rises almost sheer vertical. It must be volcanic, surely. I have to have a look at Google Earth to see. But imagine sailing here in the backdrop of islands like that. So if you do come to Indonesia, well, the eastern part of Indonesia anyway, this is what you can expect to see. It's just stunning. And I reckon there'd be almost no one living there. There'd be maybe a settlement or a village on the far side, and that's about it. Almost no habitation at all. But clearly it, well, not clearly. It may be a volcano that's active, I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me. Nothing had surprised me here. So we're still riding the wind on that that little thunderstorm that we saw before. It didn't really develop into much, but it's behind us and giving us a nice little push. So you can see it over there, back towards the Komodo Islands, and it's given that a bit of a drenching at the moment, and we're riding the wind of it, which is just perfect for us, allowing us to be on a broad reach really, and cracking along at, well, you know, I reckon 6.5, 7 knots. And you know, at times we're doing 8 to 8.5. I think that's tide behind us, helping us along like that. Anyway, that's the latest. Having a good sail. I'm hoping to get into Weira Bay before dark tonight. Well, before sunset tonight, so we can find the reef and anchor. If not, we're just going to have to continue all night. It's just the only choice we have, really. I've got a horrible feeling that the tide is starting to turn in the narrow between the, you know, that steep volcanic island and Sumbawa Island, Pulau Sumbawa. A horrible feeling that tide's turned or is about to, which means I might end up fighting it. I've got at least 6-8 miles to go until I get to the narrowest point, which is a good, at this speed, 6 knots, you know, an hour and a half. And if the tide has turned against me, it's going to be running hard soon. Well, it appears that the tide has let us go now, and I may even have it, if not with me, then certainly not too hard against me as I go through this passage. I'll show you what I think's happening. Here we go. I think the tide was running down here in the strait, and I think it came down here in nice and close and then kicked out again. So I was basically pointing like this to crab my way towards this passage, and I thought the water was running down here and out through the passage as well, but it looks like it may even be doing that, splitting. So it's possible that I've actually got it with me. I'm doing probably a little more than I'd expect to do at these reps, just under 2,500 reps. So fingers crossed. It turns out we are getting that boost as we come through the passage here. We're up to 6.8 knots over the ground. There's no way I'm motoring that fast. I would say I'm doing more like 5.5, so we're getting about 1.5 knots with us. The good news is that means we can get to Weira Bay before sunset, and it looks like a fairly straightforward approach. Shouldn't be any reef, so it's quite deep, shells up suddenly to 20 meters, and then apparently gently towards the shore. So we'll go up to the 20-metre bank, go in a little bit till I hit about 15 metres, and then we'll drop the peg. Well, we've anchored in Wira Bay for tonight. We got here just on dusk, so luckily it was a fairly straightforward approach. A lot of the tides running fairly hard here. We dropped in about 12 metres of water and probably 15 by the time we backed out. And I've got 50 metres of chain out, we're not moving. So you can see C-Map's putting us right on top of a reef, but fortunately the Navionics app shows the number of boats have anchored here already, so I knew that it was safe to approach. And as I say, we've anchored in about 15 metres of water right where we are, so there's still plenty of water there. It's a problem with the charts around here, they're very inaccurate. I would love someone to update them. Good morning YouTube lurkers and followers. We've had a really reasonable night at Wira Bay, and headed off out of there at first light this morning. It's just coming on, well, sunrise has already happened. It's past another yacht, a trimaran, and looked like there was only one guy on board, strangely waving a red t-shirt above his head. But he continued on his course. It was just like he was waving to me, and he could have easily altered his course towards me. He wasn't sailing, he was motoring. He didn't look distressed at all. And when I tried to call him on the radio, he didn't answer, but he was showing up on AIS, so his radio is definitely working. We were at Bay here this morning. We're heading up in this channel. I don't really have any tide against me at this point, and we're going to head up around here and down into a little place called Kilo. Excuse me. A little place called Kilo for the night, unless of course I get a fantastic wind and I get to really punch some miles out, in which case we'll go all the way to Kananga up in here, but that's about 70 miles away, and you know, to be honest, I wouldn't mind a bit of a relaxation at Kilo. So the plan today is to do about 35 miles and head to Kilo for the night. Just motoring along at about 5 knots over the ground. Got the main up, managing to almost keep that forward really tight on the wind. Wind's probably 20 degrees off the port side, maybe 15 degrees off the port side. I'm managing to keep the main from flogging. And if the wind swings another 15 degrees to the south, I'll get the headsail out. But for now, it's mainsail and motor. How good's this? So about 2 hours ago, a nor'wester came out, closer to a westerly breeze came, and basically right on the nose from where I wanted to go. But it was about 10 knots, which means that I could tack my way. So switched the engine off, pulled out the headsail and started tacking our way to windward. Then over the last 2 hours, the wind has slowly shifted more northerly, so that I'm getting a nor'wester now. We're hard on the wind, we're about 38, 40 degrees on the wind, but I'm now getting the course that I want into a calm sea, 10 knots, and we've been sailing for about 2.5 hours now, making nearly 6 knots. This is just fantastic. We had nearly 3 hours of this, which is really, really great. Just kicking goals here at the moment. Loving it. 7 knots, we were clocking 8 knots there before, not too long ago. So very happy with that. Hopefully we can maintain it. There's an outside chance we might be able to make an anchorage by nightfall, but I wouldn't say it's a high chance. I would say a small chance. It'd be great for me if we can, because I'd like to sleep at night. But if we can't, we'll just keep going. To hell with it. Soon, thunderstorm appears to be spreading. I've got a feeling that she might overtake us. Anyway, I just saw some lightning crashing into the ocean about 8 miles south of us. So it's still some way away, but I've got a feeling she might catch us. So anyway, at the moment we're getting about 15-16 knots. We're getting great sailing, so I'll maintain as long as I can. If that wind starts to get up, I'm definitely going to tuck a reef in the main and reef that headsail a little bit. That thunderstorm's been following me up it has eased quite a bit. Looks like it sort of was focused in one very small area, but now it's starting to spread out. The rain's spreading, but there doesn't seem to be much punch in it anymore. So the rain band looks like it's just behind me there. I've squared away the cockpit, just throw the cushions down below, get the covers out of the way. I'm ready to reef if I need to, but I don't think there's going to be any wind in this. In fact, the wind has dropped out to about 5 knots, which is why I've started the engine now, just to keep us moving. Anyway, I can see the rain on the water now. Looks like I'm going to get wet. Haha, but there it comes. A bit of thunder in there as well. Lost the wind altogether. I'm going to have to furl up that head sail, I think. It's just backed now and slowing us down. I'll have to get rid of that. Really doing us much good there. Just like that, thunderstorm gone. Well, sort of. It's passed over the top of us. There's another one formed on the mountains to my port side over there, but I don't think that's going to do anything to us or for us. The wind has now swung directly onto the nose, and we're going to go 9 knots. Out of that we're making 6, so it's probably only about 4 knots true wind, so there's not a lot of point in sailing. Won't be long now, about 40-45 minutes we'll be arriving at Kananga on the north coast of Sumbawa. Tomorrow's jump will be across to Lombok. Big trip, about 70 odd miles, so I have to get going early. But yeah, it's an absolute glass out here, has been for the last hour at least. So we're motoring. We're going to be anchoring just after sunset, so hopefully enough light still to see our entrance in. The guidebook says it's a fairly straightforward approach to the beach to anchor, and my navionics shows 3 other yachts anchorage positions, so I should be able to just gently go in and drop on top of where they anchored, and we should be good to go. Anyway, it'll get dark soon, so you're not going to see the anchoring. This will be Kananga, and then Lombok tomorrow. I'm excited about Lombok because we're going to go to on the second night in Lombok, we're going to go to Mandana Bay Marina on the north side and hopefully get a berth for 2 or 3 nights. That'd be amazing to have a berth, be able to step on and off the boat, go walking. I've got a lot of repairs, maintenance, cleaning, shopping, lots of stuff to do. But yeah, Lombok's going to be cool. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the morning. We'll start the day coming out of Kananga. Found some wind almost straight away. Set everything, and I've been making 7 to 8 knots in the calm behind, or the lee behind the islands here as I head west towards Lombok. I didn't think there was really much chance of making Lombok today because it was 75 miles, and I really would like to be there in daylight, but at this rate it's looking possible. I wouldn't say probable, I don't want to tempt fate, but it's looking possible. So at the moment, getting a fantastic little sail. Look at that. Just cracking along. In true Indonesian fashion, the wind has dropped out completely and we're back to motoring again. Yeah, it's annoying, huh? I guess because it's just, like one minute the wind comes from the north and then it's from the south, then it's from the east and the west. It's all over the place. I really thought we were going to have consistent southeasterlies as we headed west, but it hasn't happened anything like that at all, which has reduced the number of miles we've had to do, and we've had to work hard for it, and the engine's had to work really hard for it too, which is a bit of a shame because I really hate using the engine. Anyway, we're motoring again. We're on our way to the island of Lombok. Ooh, nearly halfway to Thailand, or nearly halfway to Malaysia, I think. Bloody, tell you what, Indonesia's a big place, really big. Well, the wind filled in, kind of. Basically, about 9-10 knots directly from where we want to go. So, considering we had such a long way to go and I wanted to get there before it dark, turned the engine on. We've been running that for the last couple of hours, but on top of that we've had a huge tidal current running in the strait between Lombok and Sumbawa. It's been running, pretty sure, about a knot and a half against us all the way. We've been making very little progress, maybe 4.5 knots towards our destination, and I've had to run at fairly high revs to achieve that. And I hate using the engine, let alone running it at high revs. So yeah, so I've switched the engine off and we're now tacking our way to windward. We're getting about 25 knots now. Got a reef in the main, tucked in the headsail a bit, and we're still making 7.5 knots going to windward. Nice. Not heeling over anywhere near as we were a minute ago. We're kind of a little too busy putting the reefs in to sort of film it. One of the challenges, I guess. But yeah, we're cracking along. 7.5 knots. Got a bone in her teeth now. It's going to windward in 26 knots. Well, 26 apparent. Probably 21, 22 knots wind true. Yeah. It's coming off this rain band over here. Packing a little bit of wind in front of it. I don't think it's going to get any more. If it does, I'll tack a second reef into the mainsail. But I think it's going to be alright at this point. I don't think I need to do that second reef quite yet. Right now it's just producing us even more. It was touching around 30, 32 there for a bit. So I put the second reef in the main and reduced the headsail a little bit further. And that's slowed us down to about 6.7 knots, still going to windward at about 60 degrees. It's certainly eased off the motion of the boat quite a lot. That rain band's still a way away from us. It might pack even more, in which case I've got plenty of sea room I can run. Yeah, we might ease a little bit more headsail in. See how we go though. Still packing 25 plus knots, but the boat's, you know, settled right down for that. Still making a good 6 knots. So we'll see how she goes anyway. You see that wind's coming straight up the channel here. The yellow line is showing the apparent wind on the boat. And you see we're just in this rough section as the waves come up here and the tide's trying to come down there. It's all a bit nasty. Anyway, about 25 plus, and we're sort of rigged down for it at the moment, so we're doing pretty good. Tarn's enjoying it. I don't know how. Wind's backed off quite a lot, down to around 20 knots. Well, there's still a lot of white caps around. It's very hard to tell whether there's more serious wind coming our way. There's certainly a rain band coming, and it may pack a punch in front of it. So I'm going to leave those by that second reef in the main, and I'm going to leave the headsail probably at about 50% is what we've got at the moment, maybe a little less. Although that's slowed us down a lot, considering it's only 20 knots of wind. It's definitely safer for us if that wind suddenly gets up. So yeah, we'll just persevere until this rain band's passed over, and then more than likely we'll be left in a glass out. Well, apart from all the waves, but you know what I mean, like the wind's going to drop right out, most likely. Anyway, the rain band's probably 20 minutes, half an hour away. I'm just going to sit and relax and wait for it now, really. We're about 30 miles off the coast north of Lombok, northeast of Lombok. So we're a little way offshore. Anyway, that's why this why these waves were able to set up so quickly. Yeah, get quite steep quite fast because we're well offshore. There's no protection to limit their fetch. We've been dodging squalls, thunderstorms and rain bands all afternoon. Well, we haven't been dodging them, they've just been weaving around us. But then all of a sudden, sort of 30-40 minutes ago, the wind just dropped, just gone. and now we're left behind with this bloody awful swell. But I'm going to try and put into an anchorage here at the northeast end of Lombok. The book says it's approachable during the dark, so just behind Pulau Langawan. So it's going to be right on dark when we anchor for sure. But I really could use the sleep, and we've lost the GPS again, which is just bad connection there somewhere. There's a corrosion somewhere. But anyway, I'll if we anchor tonight, I can have a look at it in the morning, and more than likely can wiggle something or maybe get it working. So that's what we're doing. We're going in and we're going to anchor. And incredibly majestic mountain peaks here. We're going to go and anchor under the lee of those guys. Wow. Apparently it'll be calm in here. Hope so.